It all starts here, a quiet New England town transformed into the stage for the world's most iconic marathon.
And they're off. A sea of humanity in Hopkinton right now.
A Patriots Day tradition.
It is a race that draws runners from all over the world. 27,000 of them taking on the challenge of a lifetime.
From perennial champions to the American hopefuls to those who run for a cause. On this day, they all run as one to say they ran Boston.
The crowd here is going crazy at the finish line.
Interrupting your program because there have been 2 explosions today at the Boston Marathon. 2 explosions near the finish line just a short while ago. You see the scene right there. Explosions right by the finish line.
We've just gotten word of not 1 but 2 explosions near the finish line of the Boston Marathon. These are live pictures coming into us now.
There were tens of thousands of runners still coming down various parts of the marathon course when all of a sudden, right at the finish line, a bomb went off. Followed but just seconds later by a second bomb, maybe a block away.
And we have some video coming in of when the explosions went off. You see the white smoke right there. 4 hours into the marathon, a little over 4 hours into the marathon. A second explosion followed just seconds later. Police have now confirmed those explosions, say that there are injuries on the scene as we've seen them being wheeled away for the past several minutes. But as Diane has just been cautioning, we have no idea what might have set these, what might have set these explosions off.
CBS News is reporting that they have a Saudi national who was seen acting suspiciously, running from the explosion. He's denying any involvement. This could be very premature. A lot of people were running, and they're going to ask this person, and they're going to find whoever did this before it's all said and done. I'm absolutely convinced.
We don't yet have all the answers, but we do know that multiple people have been wounded, some gravely, in explosions at the Boston Marathon.
The spectators and witnesses have been sending pictures and videos and tips all to the FBI, and the FBI says they are investigating every single one of them. And these are very important, and investigators say if you have any of these pictures, they want to hear from you. Now we have some pictures that our 7 News viewers have sent to us that are now part of the investigation.
Take a look at these 2 pictures sent to 7 News by a viewer. In the first, you can see runners nearing the finish line, the spectators behind the metal railing, and as we zoom in next to the mailbox, a light-colored bag. Now look at the second picture, snapped just seconds after one of the explosions. We've blurred out much of it because it's so graphic, but in the untouched picture, you can see there's no sign of the bag anymore. And all around where the bag was, people are lying on the ground, many of them badly hurt. 7 News turned the pictures over to the FBI, who is now looking at them to try and figure out if it's possible that this is the second bomb. Investigators have said they believe both bombs were likely hidden in black nylon bags. This bag is not black, but everything is being looked at. Now to a different series of photos sent to 7 News by another viewer. We've handed these over to the FBI as well. A man took these images from his office above Boylston Street, and they show the moments right after one of the explosions. You can see almost everyone is frozen, many crouching on the ground, stunned or injured. But one man is acting very differently from everyone else. His clothes are shredded, and you can see him running away from the scene.
The FBI says anything that stands out is worth a second look, including these shots made seconds after the blast by Ben Thorndike from his office overlooking the finish line.
I was struck by this individual. Everyone else in the photo is on the ground, bent over, holding their ears, appearing to be in shock, immobile. But this one individual is exactly the opposite. He's sprinting. His clothes were in tatters. They were melted and burned off his body. So for all I know, he was panicked and fleeing.
Remember the Saudi that they initially had arrested or at least detained, and then I reported yesterday that they had the Saudi national and the Al-Arbi, and then it was determined there was no involvement, and they made a statement to that effect. Well, I just learned from my own sources that he is now going to be deported on national security grounds next Tuesday, which is very unusual because.
Whoa. You learned that Saudi national is going to be deported on national security?
That's right.
Well, now, wait, hang on, because Reuters did have a report tonight that I found odd, and that was Obama was meeting with the foreign minister, Prince, earlier tonight, and it was not on Obama's schedule. Reuters reported that.
But that's very interesting because this is the way things are done with Saudi Arabia. You don't arrest their citizens, you deport them because they don't want them to be embarrassed, and that's the way we've appeased them.
We still do not know who did this or why, and people shouldn't jump to conclusions before we have all the facts. But make no mistake, we will get to the bottom of this, and we will find out who did this. We'll find out why they did this. Any responsible individuals, any responsible groups will feel the full weight of justice. You should anticipate that as we get more information, our teams will provide you briefings. We're still in the investigation stage at this point, but I just want to reiterate, we will find out who did this, and we will hold them accountable.
Investigators spent Tuesday combing through the twin blast sites where so much pain and suffering was caused at the finish line for the Boston Marathon. They're finding important clues about the nature of the devices that went off, killing 3 people and injuring more than 170 others. The AP has learned that they were pressure cookers packed with metal shards, nails, and ball bearings. Similar devices have been used in bombings in places like India and Pakistan, a finding consistent with what doctors treating the wounded discovered.
They are numerous. There are people who have 10, 20, 30, 40 of them in their body.
Given what we now know about what took place, the FBI is investigating it as an act of terrorism. Anytime bombs are used to target innocent civilians, it is an act of terror.
My heart goes out to the families of the people that were killed or injured in the Boston Marathon. And my heart also goes out to the thousands of people killed every month by illegal drone strikes where they'll kill 200 people and call it collateral damage but never show it on our news. Little arms and legs blown in all directions. If you try to put that on YouTube, they'll shut your channel down. But if you show the death and carnage from this event, that's meant to be used to take our liberties and convert America to a pure authoritarian globalist stronghold, then it's allowed. Ladies and gentlemen, I've studied false flags for 18 years. Our government has declassified the fact that it's been involved in hundreds of staged terror attacks and bombings all over the world to blame their political enemies. Any so-called journalist out there that want to look into it can check out Operation Gladio or Operation Ajax or the Gulf of Tonkin, or Operation Northwoods for that matter. They think the public is so stupid, they sit up there and say, why would Alex Jones, this devil, ever say it could be the government or elements in the government? How terrible, how horrible. Why, governments have never done anything like this to get power. Government has a history of doing it. It has the motive. You can see the media gearing up, saying there's going to be domestic terror attacks. The Tea Party is going to link up with Al-Qaeda. Asinine garbage like this. But from the Family Guy to CNN, oh my gosh, the Patriots are going to merge with Al-Qaeda. You can trust no one but Homeland Security. Ladies and gentlemen, Homeland Security stands to gain from this. They've got anti-gun bills, open border bills, and a bill to make Homeland Security autonomous from Congress right now in front of them. And these type of events grease the skids and allow government to expand. And that's what's happening. So bottom line, this crisis will be used to take your freedoms. And they've now confirmed that there was a drill. They told people, don't be alarmed before the bombs went off.
I'm here with Alastair Stevenson from Alabama. He was at the Boston Marathon. He was a veteran of other marathons. And before the race, he detailed a concerning statement that there was a lot of buildup of bomb squads and bomb-sniffing dogs and even rooftop shooters. And he says that it was so peculiar, he thinks that police must know that something was going on. So thanks a lot for joining me today. Tell me what's going on.
Just at the start of the event at the Athletes Village, there was police spotters, or there was people on the roof with binoculars looking down onto the Athletes Village at the start. There was dogs with their handlers going around sniffing for explosives, and we were told on a loud announcement that we shouldn't be concerned, this was just a drill. You know, that just concerned me that that's the only race that I've ever done in my life where I've seen, you know, dogs sniffing for explosives, and that's the only race where there's ever been an explosion show. But like I said, it really could have just been a drill.
Sure, but you've done larger races in the past, and you haven't seen anything like that before.
Never seen anything like that. I've ran in the London Marathon, Marine Corps, Chicago, Disney, all the major marathons I've ran in, and I've never seen anything like that before.
But they announced over the broadcasting system that this is a training exercise. So they openly said, this is a training exercise, this is a drill. Because there's people out there that are saying that the drill never existed, and many of them are actually police saying that they never even did the training exercise. But this is for sure. You heard that over the broadcast system, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. They did run a drill at the start at the Athletes Village, yes.
Do you think, based on what you saw, that they had to have some type of knowledge that there was a bomb threat or something like that? What do you think about the police commissioner who said that they had no prior intelligence whatsoever, and now some of them are denying that there was any type of drill?
I mean, I was there at the Athletes Village. I did see a drill going on, and did hear the announcements that it was just a drill. But I mean, there was absolutely a drill going on at the Athletes Village before the race.
The Boston Marathon had activated a mass casualty plan beforehand, and a drill was going on the morning of the race. On record, the Boston Marathon was protected by the Boston Police Department, including undercover cops in the crowd, over 450 Massachusetts National Guard, spotters on the roof, bomb-sniffing dogs at the beginning and end of the race, private military contractors, and yet officials still said the bomb, quote, went off without warning.
Reporter Tony Cartolucci posted on his Land Destroyer blog photos that were posted to Flickr showing in high def the role of, quote, contractors who stood near the bomb and then across from it at the Boston Marathon before talking with FBI bomb squad members. Who are they and exactly what were they involved in? Let's take a look at these photos in detail. The first one shows the two contractors shown here in the back of the screen wearing backpacks as well as communications gear in their ears, standing near this temporary wooden structure not far from where the bomb went off. Later you could see the area where the bomb blasted was clearly next to where they were standing near this temporary wooden structure. After the bomb's blast, they were seen standing across the street and behind the barricades, again talking through their communications gear and standing within the containment zone established by police, event coordinators, and National Guards members. Later, photographs revealed that an unmarked SUV arrived not far from where the original contractors stood. A man wearing the same clothing as the unidentified contractors walked up to the unmarked SUV. Later, there appears to be a contractor talking to whoever's inside this emergency vehicle, while other contractors are seen speaking with FBI bomb squad. So were these contractors working with the FBI bomb squad? Were they involved in monitoring the two suspects who would later be blamed for the attack? Were they involved in planting the bomb? Why didn't they do anything to stop it?
There are guys in uniforms, the same boots, the same pants, the same black shirts and coats with backpacks all over the last mile. And there's people walking around with what looks like detonators in their hands. And all this is going on. And then there's like patsies whose bags match the wreckage of what the news put on air and said was the remains of the black canvas bags. Men wearing Navy SEAL caps with the Punisher logo that all the SEAL teams wear, identical to what Chris Kyle wore. And you see Chris Kyle in his photos wearing the tan combat boots, the tan pants, the black shirt. Same deal over and over again. And we have the photos and the videos of all of this. And we have the eyewitnesses who've confirmed that indeed they were told, it's a drill, don't worry about guys in backpacks everywhere. So there were all these black backpacks so that police who weren't compartmentalized couldn't stop what was happening. And the real evidence of this being a false flag is that they've covered up that, and they lied about it in the press conference, the drill that's now been confirmed. It was in the Boston Globe, that was covered in News 15. And since then, National News and others have talked to the marathon coach that witnessed all this, announcing, everybody be calm, don't worry about the guys with the backpacks. You see the photos, the men that look like SEALs, they look like military, bottom line, are standing around in control of the situation with their backpacks on their cell phones, right in the area across the street where the bomb goes off, where they have the patsy. And I said, if this is the real patsy, because his straps of his backpack match the FBI photos of what was left of the backpack, they won't be able to release this now because we have all the John Doe number 2s, 3s, 4, 5s, and 6s already digitally online. It isn't like Oklahoma City where the feds could declare, hey, we're going to say national security on all these 17 surveillance cameras and confiscate the VHS. This is out there. And so then they announce, we have arrested the suspect. We're going to release it. And then they said, well, now we're not, and there's not going to be a press conference, and there wasn't an arrest. Ladies and gentlemen, we have absolutely blown their program wide open because they can't show the patsies who are right there where the flags were, right there where the bomb went off, on all these different video cameras, showing different angles of it and photos. They can't show that when they're surrounded by guys in kind of the off-duty Navy SEAL uniform that the general public doesn't notice, but that is black shirts, black jackets, and khakis and tan combat boots. This is incredible, ladies and gentlemen. This is off the charts. And the media is like, well, we've never heard of this before. They didn't arrest the guy, and they've evacuated the courthouse he was supposedly in and for whatever cover-up. And now there won't be a press conference. And who knows what's going to happen with Obama tomorrow now. The whole script is screwed up because people basically looked at what was happening. So, if a tree fell in the forest and no one was there to hear it, did it make a sound? We're here watching this, the drills, our reporters at the press conference. They're acting incredibly suspicious as soon as he brings up false flag and drills at the press conference.
Was there any prior knowledge of? Because according to BostonGlobe.com, they said they were doing drills this morning for the same exact thing that happened, according to BostonGlobe.com. Now, was you guys given any warning ahead of time of this taking place?
As I said earlier, there was no specific intelligence. We certainly increase our posture around a big event like this. All of those things happened in preparation for this event, but there was no specific intelligence that anything was going to happen.
Do you take any questions?
Oh, sir, why were loudspeakers telling people in the audience to be calm moments before the bomb went off? Is this another false flag stage attack to take our civil liberties and put more Homeland Security sticking their hands down on the pants on the streets?
No. Next question.
That's it. Why was people being told prior?
9:30 tomorrow morning.
Why was people being told prior to the bombs going off to stay calm? That's a false flag, gentlemen. Just to put more TSA on the street to rob our civil liberties.
Our collective law enforcement team has pursued thousands of leads and tips. As I said 2 days ago, we are working methodically and with a sense of urgency to identify those responsible for the bombings. Today, we are enlisting the public's help to identify the 2 suspects. After a very detailed analysis of photo, video, and other evidence, we are releasing photos of these 2 suspects. The photos and videos are posted for the public and media to use, review, and publicize. For clarity, these images should be the only ones, and I emphasize the only ones, that the public should view to assist us. Other photos should not be deemed credible. Identifying and locating those responsible is now our highest priority. No other details of the investigation will be released at this time because this is our focus now. It continues to be an ongoing, active investigation.
Why are you denying that there was bomb drills Monday morning? We got photographs on Infowars.com, folks.
Next question, please. Next question, please. Yes. Yes.
Are both suspects seen planting these devices at the finish line of the Boston Marathon?
No. The only one who was observed planting what we believe to be the device is suspect number 2 with a white cap.
What time did they put those devices down, do you believe?
I don't have the precise time in front of me. It was shortly before the bomb blast went off. Within minutes.
Mr. Delurier, are these the sole people of interest to the FBI at this point in your investigation?
At these time, these are the people of interest to the FBI. Yes. Yes.
Do you have any information on what they did after the explosions? Any indication they were around watching? Do you have any video of them walking away?
Suspect number 2, with the white cap on, proceeded west on Boylston Street. And that's all we know right now.
Sir, can you address there were pictures today in newspapers all over the country, including the New York Post, that identified 2 men as potential suspects. I'm just wondering what it does to your investigation when things like this get out and these guys are wrong.
I think I addressed that, thank you, and I think I addressed that question in my statement by saying the only official photos that should be officially relied upon in this investigation are those you see before you today. These images should be the only ones, and I emphasize the only ones, that the public should view to assist us. Other photos should not be deemed credible.
One Boston Marathon suspect, believe it or not, has been killed. He is dead this morning. That suspect, known as suspect number 1 in the white hat, revealed yesterday. He died at the hospital from multiple gunshot wounds after this shootout with police overnight.
The black hat, Gretchen, let's just clarify, the gentleman, not the gentleman, the terrorist in the black hat right there has been killed. The gentleman in the white hat on the run.
Well, one of the suspects was killed during this firefight. His brother, who's still at large, reportedly ran over his injured brother, then plowed straight through a line of police officers before escaping into the night.
Soon after the bullet stopped, a lot more police showed up, and actually an ambulance showed up. About 5 or 10 minutes after the ambulance showed up, someone was actually getting carried out on a gurney, just wrapped in a white sheet from head to toe. Like, they were clearly deceased. I didn't know if it was an officer or who died.
10:20 p.m. Shots are fired at MIT. A campus police officer is found murdered, shot multiple times in his cruiser. It wasn't long after 2 men carjack a Mercedes SUV. Watertown police spot the car, and all hell breaks loose.
During the course of that pursuit, several explosive devices were discharged from the car at the police officers. In the exchange of the gunfire, we believe that one of the suspects was struck and ultimately taken into custody. A second suspect was able to flee from that car, and there was an active search going on at this point in time.
A transit officer was shot and wounded in the gunfight, but police did shoot 1 man. Tamerlan Tsarnaev, identified as suspect number 1. Tsarnaev later dies at a hospital. Strapped to his body, bombs.
This was a trauma arrest, multiple injuries, probably, we believe, a combination of blasts, potentially gunshot wounds.
How many gunshot wounds?
Unable to count.
Multiple gunshot wounds?
Yes.
And the other, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the rest of that.
And probably a blast injury also.
Blast meaning what?
An explosive device, possibly shrapnel, thermal injury.
Can you describe it where or what?
It was pretty much throughout the trunk. It was multiple wounds.
Police say Tsarnaev's brother manages to escape. He floors it, running over his brother's body, scattering a line of police to get away. Police believe the younger Tsarnaev is armed and dangerous and may have explosives strapped to his body, too.
You live on Dexter Street, correct?
My boyfriend does, but I was just spending the night.
Okay, and tell us what happened. Give us the timeline, what you saw.
We rushed to the front of the house. It's a 2-family house, and into his roommate's room, where we saw the first suspect get hit by a police SUV, and then after he was hit, shot multiple times. Minutes later, an ambulance had arrived, put the suspect into the ambulance, and then off.
And did you say that the suspect was hit by a police SUV? In other words, a vehicle hit him first?
Correct.
Wow.
You know, I can also say, you know, from what we saw early this morning, I'd be hard pressed to think that he was actually pronounced dead at the hospital. I mean, from the injuries that he incurred in the street, I would say he was probably dead when he was put in the ambulance.
Now, Linda, did he have a weapon? Was he firing back with a pistol or some sort of a weapon at the police?
Well, so with the gunfire that you hear, and even if you listen to the news, you'll hear, you know, gunfire it sounds just from one gun, but towards the end you could hear multiple rounds, which sounds like it's coming from two different weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, did I see it? I did not see him fire. I just remember him, I just remember seeing him get shot multiple times. So, I mean, just from what I can remember and from what I can hear, I believe towards the end there was some retaliation on his end, but I didn't personally see it.
In Watertown this evening, police handcuffed a man. The man you see in this video getting into the police car, he's believed to be associated with the shooting at MIT and the subsequent chase through the streets of Greater Boston Thursday night into Friday morning local time. The man was handcuffed, here you see him again, and walked naked to the police vehicle. At this time, I want to caution, CNN does not know what this man has been detained for. We do not know whether it is connected to the MIT shooting of the police officer or anything else that has taken place in the Boston, Massachusetts area this evening. But clearly he's of interest to local law enforcement. The FBI is trying to determine if there is a relationship between what happened at MIT and is going on in Watertown this evening and what happened here just a couple blocks away from me at the Boston Marathon on Monday. And Drew, I know you're going to ask Gabe to explain a little bit further, but we understand he reported earlier, Gabe, that individual, the naked man in the police car, was taken out after he had been detained, and a photograph was taken of him. We assume, according to Juliet Kayyem, a Homeland Security analyst we have at CNN, that is to try to make a connection or see if there is a connection between this individual, and we understand there was a second arrest as well.
You were positioned over
at Dexter and Nichols.
And tell us what you saw from the moment you stepped on the scene.
So I followed a couple of squad cars down to Nichols Street towards Dexter. It was immediately a chaotic situation. I jumped out. There were a couple of other journalists there. We ran towards the scene. The police had, from multitudes of agencies, all had their weapons drawn, pointing at a vehicle that we could not see from our vantage point. They were screaming for somebody to put his hands up, to get out of the car. At some point he did do that, because then we could tell that the officers were relaxing. We still couldn't see the car or the suspect. Then at some point, they brought him from his vehicle to a police car. He was completely naked. He'd been, during the confrontation, I did hear him, and I believe you may be able to hear this on the tape we shot. They were ordering him to remove all his clothes, including his underwear. It was clear.
You heard the police officer say, remove all your clothes,
yes.
Remove your skivvies.
Exactly,
right.
Exactly. So that's when they brought him completely naked into a police car.
Was he in handcuffs?
I believe he was cuffed, yes. He was being escorted, put in the car. So about 10 or 15 minutes ago, the FBI arrived.
When you said the FBI arrived,
yes.
What kind of vehicle and who came out of that vehicle?
Several FBI agents in various states of either civilian clothes or tactical gear, wearing their blue FBI jackets. They came out, they went to the vehicle where the suspect was seated and removed him from the vehicle at one point. Now, at this point, they'd gotten him dressed. He was still barefoot. He was wearing pants and a jacket, handcuffed from behind. They led him away from the vehicle towards a wall of a business. They shined flashlights in his face, and it looked like they were taking photographs. I couldn't tell exactly what they were doing, but it looked like they were taking photographs of his face. Once they completed that, they walked him back to the vehicle and started to question him extensively for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then they put him back in the vehicle.
So then are you suspicious that maybe they really did do this?
No, I'm suspicious that this was staged. The picture was staged.
By who?
Whoever needs this.
But why would
whoever is looking for those who need to be blamed for these attacks.
So you think they're being set up by someone else, not the authorities? You think they're being set up by someone else?
What do you mean, somebody else?
Well, who is setting?
Who is interested in this case?
InfoWars correspondent Dan Dix in Canada was able to make contact with the aunt of the two bombing suspects from the Boston Marathon. And when he spoke with Maret Zarnev, she said that she trusted Infowars.com and was aware of my show from listening to it in the past, and so that she would be very excited to be able to speak with me on air to tell her story unedited and untwisted. I then talked to her 2 separate times in the afternoon, and she basically said, I am just a little fly that they could crush. And I had seen her in the Huffington Post saying that she had been threatened, and she basically began to cry and say that I just want to have my life basically, in fact, I wrote some notes right here, the people will just laugh. I know in my gut that this is a lie, that they were basically set up by the security services, the same thing that the father has been saying, the same thing that the mother has been saying. It was really, really painful, and we're going to get to some more of what she told me over the phone in a moment and actually air some of the audio. She's obviously a woman in grief. She said that she believes that there's a cover-up, that they were set up, but that she has basically run her race, that she's not going to fight this anymore. And I said, is it because of the threats? And she said, no, I have not been threatened. And if they're listening right now, I'm not going to do anymore. So this is like something out of a movie. And of course, earlier in the day, she had said that she was being threatened, and that was quoted by newspapers around the world. So it is my humble opinion that she has been threatened. Now, when I pressed her on this point, she said, well, the police have told her not to talk to the media. And I said, who, the FBI? She said, no, the Canadian police. She said, I have reached out to the FBI to try to tell them what I know, and basically any interested parties. And she said, no one wants to know the truth. The media will just spin anything that I say. She said basically that both the boys are dead. She said, and I said, well, what about the younger one? And he's not dead yet. And she said, well, basically, he's not going to be free anymore, and God knows what they're going to do to him. And she's just so sad, worrying about the whole situation, and knowing what she knows from the mother, who, by the way, the mother was the first person to say 5 years ago the FBI was casing him and talking to him and things. And then it did come out that 2.5 years ago, the Russian government contacted the U.S. and said, the older brother, he's getting into the country with an alias and then coming back. Does he work for you? Because the West has been funding radicals in Chechnya, in Dagestan, and other areas. So these guys clearly had the connections to the intelligence agencies. Here is the interview that the FBI does not want you to see.
Hello.
Hello, is this Maret Zarnev?
Yes, speaking.
Hi, my name is David Knight. I'm with Infowars.com. It's Alex Jones's operation. Have you heard of us?
Yes, I heard of you. Yes.
And we would very much like to do an interview with you. Would that be possible?
Since I have seen the material that you presented for the public before about these bombings, even before the names of our boys were put out there, I was following you, from the very beginning.
Okay.
I don't know. I have trust in that information. I have trust in you, and I would like to have my word said.
Good.
Especially in the part when the guy that was taken into custody by police, then given over to FBI. You know who I'm talking about? That clip.
Yes.
A naked guy.
Yes.
I have to publicly state that I confirm and identify this person as my nephew, Tamerlan Tsarnaev. My gut tells me I have to, and I can't trust you, your radio. I would like to do that.
Well, we're interested in the truth, and we want to hear your side unedited, and we'll certainly give you a chance to talk to everybody and explain, your perspective.
Again, David, my perspective, you put it that way, but again, the priority is to openly state the person on that video. I don't want to be repetitive. I have to say publicly that I identify this guy as my nephew, because this says a lot.
Yes.
This says a lot.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It says quite a bit.
I wanted to scream to the whole world. What did you do? What have you done with my son? He was alive. Why did they need to kill him? Why didn't send him to the, Guantanamo or whatever? Why did they kill him? Why? Why did they have to kill him? They got him alive, right? He was in their hands.
You did speak to her. Tell us about, what was her mood as well as what she had to say?
Deeply traumatized. I spoke to her first in the late hours of yesterday, in which she held the belief still that her son Tamerlan, the elder alleged Boston bomber, was in fact still alive and had been mistaken identity. As the evening drew on, she saw social media videos of his dead body, and then it was quite clear to her that it was in fact her son that had died. So deeply traumatized through much of it, but still at the core of her a disbelief that they were responsible for the crimes alleged by U.S. authorities, considering them to be angelic in so many ways, and this to be, in fact, some sort of conspiracy that framed them. In fact, one part of the conversation, she alluded to footage there once was of a man stripped down and put into a police car, arrested during the manhunt, in which she believes actually resembles her son. She thinks, in fact, in the conversation we had, that in fact he was taken alive by police. So obviously something U.S. officials will have a lot to say about and to deny, but I mean, a very traumatized woman having an incredibly difficult time.
We had the naked man controversy, and that was footage of a guy who was being arrested who looks an awful lot like Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the older brother. We had the aunt on, we interviewed her. She said she's 100% positive it's him. Well, Business Insider is reporting now, police say the naked man arrested in Boston was not Tamerlan Tsarnaev. On Thursday night, while police were hunting in Watertown, Massachusetts for bombing suspects Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, at one point they arrested a naked man who looks a lot like Tamerlan. Police say the naked man is not Tamerlan, despite various conspiracy theories going around the internet. According to official account, Tamerlan died after a shootout with the cops, riddled with bullets and shrapnel before being run over by his brother who was fleeing the scene in an SUV. Well, there's also people who've called into talk shows and said, hey, they saw Tamerlan being pulled out of the car, FBI showed up, took a photograph of the guy, walked away, and that, he was never run over by a car and he was alive when they last saw him. But, who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe the government? Or are you going to believe eyewitnesses?
Well, Tabang, we have reports from Associated Press that the name of the suspect now at large is Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. What we know at the moment is that he's 19 years old. The media here are saying that he is of Chechen background. We don't know if he's a Russian citizen at this point. He apparently attended a school in Russia's Republic of Dagestan. We reached out to that school and they told us that the young man spent there around a year and that the family arrived there from Kyrgyzstan in 2001, and they didn't actually remember the young man very well. It's all very sketchy at this point. We're going to get more details in the coming hours, of course, and maybe some of the reports that we share now will prove wrong. The suspect who was killed earlier tonight is reported to be his 20-year-old brother, Tamerlan Tsarayev. They were apparently permanent residents of the U.S., and we don't know if they were acting alone or they were whether they were trained abroad, whether they were part of a terrorist network or maybe a network that with connections with terrorist groups inside Russia.
The investigation into the Boston Marathon bombings continues, with journalists hunting for every new detail. RT's Anastasia Churkina looks now into the background of the two suspects and the way they're being portrayed by the global media.
A terror act that shook the U.S. The suspects, a 19 and a 26-year-old, the Tsarnaev brothers. Jahar was a U.S. citizen, Tamerlan on his way to becoming one, but both of Chechen origin. The older brother, Tamerlan, is said to have traveled to Dagestan in Russia for several months.
The trip to Dagestan, to Russia in 2012 of the elder brother.
It was done in Dagestan. They showed him how to make detonators, put these things together.
He went to Russia and stayed in a place near Chechnya, coming from those countries, where those countries harbor resentment against the United States.
And while the origin and, yet again, religion are already largely blamed as the root of all evil, the investigation is only in its first stages.
Somebody who's grown up in a Muslim family.
They then became religious zealots, and they then became jihadists.
Those who knew the two brothers say the media is taking it over the top.
They can't always be trying to rush to be the first ones to break a new piece of information.
Local blogger Luis Vasquez knew both brothers well.
Jahar, he was here since he was little. And if you didn't know Jahar's name, you would just assume that he was an American. Around here, we have a very diverse community, and it's normal to hear for someone to go back to their country.
He says over-sensationalizing the Tsarnaev's background doesn't get any answers to the question why being answered.
Tamerlan, and even from coaching with his brother, they would never go around pounding their chest about their religion. The most extensive conversation I've had about their background is them telling me where they're from. That's it. That's it. And then after that, let's talk about boxing. Let's talk about lunch. That's it.
Samuel went to high school with Jahar, who has now been charged with use of weapons of mass destruction.
The media has a way of spinning things, of course, and with regards to his nationality, to me it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter what his religion is either. When I graduated, there were 45 languages spoken just in my graduating class alone. It is not unusual. In fact, it is very common to hear a foreign language.
He reminds us that the only suspect alive after the bombings has lived in America since the age of 8.
Having come here at a younger age, from everyone that knows him best, they will tell you, and they have told me on certain occasions, this person was part of the community.
Now on the line, we've got the mother of one of the two suspects, Subdayat Tsarnaeva, on the line with me now. What can you tell me about your sons and your thoughts of what they're accused of tonight?
Okay, can I speak now?
Yes, you are indeed. You're live on RT.
Thank you. Well, what can I tell? It's really like a hard thing to hear, and being a mother, what I can say is I am really sure, I am like 100% sure that this is a setup. My two sons are really innocent, and I know that neither of them never have talked about whatever they're saying about now. And what I want to say is, both of them were my youngest one was raised from 8 years. He was raised in America, and my oldest son, he is they're really properly raised, and in our house nobody talked about the terrorism. And my son Tamerlan really got involved in the religion, religious politics 5 years ago. So he started following his own religious aspects, and he never told me that he would be on the side of jihad, and whatever they're talking, whatever is talking about him being a loser.
themselves are the losers. My son would never do this. My son, it is a set up. He was controlled by FBI like for 5 years. They knew what my son was doing. They knew what actions and what the sites on internet he was going. They used to come home. They used to come and talk to me. They used to tell me that that they are controlling his. They were telling me that he's a really a serious leader, and they are afraid of him. They told me that whatever computer site or whatever is there, whatever information he's getting, they are controlling him. So how could this happen? How could they? They were controlling every step of him, and they are telling today that this is a terrorist act. Never ever. This is not true. My 2 sons are innocent.
I'm joined now from New York by our Biana Golodriga, who is fluent in Russian and spoke several times today to the suspect's father, the only American television reporter to do so. And Biana, you actually told the father that his younger son, bombing suspect number 2, was still alive.
That's right, Elizabeth. I spoke with him as soon as we got word of that. I called him. It was about 4 or 5 a.m. in Russia. He was relieved. He cried Slava Bogu in Russian. That means thank God. He started to cry. He said that he was on his way to the U.S. He didn't say when he would be coming, but he said it was terrible that he had lost one son. At least he had one who was still alive. Of course, this was still a big, shocking revelation for him. He's still in disbelief. He believes that his sons have been framed, but for the moment, he is relieved that his son is alive and he is on his way to see him in the States, Elizabeth.
These are very, very dangerous individuals, as the police have warned. They are telling the public they must stay inside, they must stay out of the way, and allow the police to do their work. The public transportation is closed. People need to stay indoors, and they should not open their door unless they know it is a police officer.
But Jennifer, one other quick question before I let you go. What about the fact that they don't seem to fit the MO of a terrorist who's been trained overseas? As far as the cameras being able to pick up their images, it's like they almost wanted to be seen. And number 2, the 9/11 hijackers all died. So these guys did not follow.
I think, one of the more, Gretchen, I think that's one of the more interesting points. And my husband and I were discussing this earlier this evening when we were trying to weigh whether this looked like it was a foreign terrorist operation or maybe domestic terrorists who were inspired by foreign terrorists and made their bombs here. And that was a very key point, that these were not suicide bombers. But it is not clear that we have seen the end of this cell, and it is not clear that it is just these 2 individuals that we're dealing with. One of these terrorists is dead, and let's remember what the doctor said at the hospital at Beth Israel. He said that it wasn't just bullet wounds that this suspect died of. He also had what looked like explosives in his torso area.
In the end, after the gunfire and the flashbangs, authorities showed their determination to capture Jahar Tsarnaev alive. Listen to officers negotiating with the suspect as he's holed up inside a boat in a backyard in Watertown. We snaked through alleys and back lots to get to within a couple hundred yards of the boat. As we shot this exclusive video, police rushed us, saying we were in the crossfire zone.
Hey, clear out, okay? Come on, I said please.
It was just minutes later that police captured Tsarnaev. He had lost blood, was weakened, but authorities say he had put up a fight in that backyard, engaging them with gunfire.
In a shocking revelation, sources now say Jahar Tsarnaev had no weapon when he was hiding in a boat, and a police officer injured during the operation appears an accidental victim of friendly fire.
There's huge relief here today after the second suspect in the Boston Marathon killings was captured alive. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was found hiding in a boat in a back garden last night and was arrested after a gun battle. He was just a few streets away from where his older brother Tamberlen was killed in a shootout with police on Thursday. The 19-year-old had managed to escape the scene, forcing a lockdown of Watertown in the Boston area. But despite being less than a mile away, he was just outside the police search zone. As the operation unfolded, we joined the crowds on the streets of Watertown.
Good job! All of you, good job!
They thanked the police. After a day of fear and tension, the residents of Watertown had been, as they saw it, delivered from danger.
Thank you. Yeah. Didn't they tell you to go back?
No.
Didn't they tell you to go back on the thing?
No. Earlier, police had said it was safe for people to come out of their houses. But all of a sudden, they'd heard gunfire.
I walked down the street. When I get to the corner, just pop, 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 pop. Continue to walk across the street, went right in there. Cop cars from flying all down here, from here, down here. This cop car just flew backwards from here. So it was just insane.
A neighbor captured the moment. The police were exchanging gunfire with their suspect. They'd located him after a man called to say he'd seen blood near his boat, which he'd covered for the winter in the backyard.
Looks inside just under the tarp, sees a small pool of blood at that point. Again, it was kind of partly sunny yesterday under the tarp of the boat. Couldn't really get a really good view of what he saw, but he saw something hunched down toward the forward of the boat, and his mind instantly did the right thing.
The police were moving in. As darkness fell, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, who had crawled into the boat after being wounded on Thursday night, was surrounded. They called on him to surrender. And soon it was over. He stepped out and into the custody of the law. President Obama was informed and then spoke to the nation.
Obviously, tonight there are still many unanswered questions. Among them, why did young men who grew up and studied here as part of our communities and our country resort to such violence? How did they plan and carry out these attacks? And did they receive any help?
You can set us back, but you can't take us down!
In Watertown, they celebrated.
Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. So good, so good, so good!
People here don't know whether to be excited or relieved, because after 4 days of violence and tension, finally it's over. But for the police, the most important thing is that they've caught their suspect alive, so he can talk. Is it important to you that they seem to have got him alive?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to see what this kid was thinking and if he's part of something bigger, and I'm glad that he wasn't killed outright, because dead man can't tell their stories.
Grateful to be an American and grateful to be alive and safe today, and very thankful to everybody who assisted in getting the suspect.
Are you happy that he's alive?
Yes, I'm very happy. I think we all want some answers.
Thank you! The excitement will soon fade. 5 people, including the first suspect, are dead. More than 170 are injured, some seriously. And America now has to ask why 2 young men turned against the country in which they were raised.
Dzhokhar Tsarnaev may not be able to speak right now, but he is revealing so much more about how and why he carried out those marathon bombings with his brother.
And the 19-year-old suspect has been formally charged now with using a weapon of mass destruction and malicious destruction of property. And that also, could face the death penalty.
No question about it. ABC's Brian Ross is in Boston with exclusive new details on the interrogation. Good morning, Brian.
Well, good morning, George and Robin. The 19-year-old suspect has admitted his role in the bombing, speaking with or communicating with that special team of FBI agents who did not have to give him his legal rights. The suspect also revealed, according to authorities, much of the how and the why of the deadly bomb blast. For all the fear and drama that the attacks produced, the younger brother reportedly told agents it was almost entirely done from the internet, homegrown, with no direction from overseas. They used an Al-Qaeda internet description of how to make a pressure cooker bomb.
They took a very simple recipe and then targeted the Boston Marathon.
The decision to target the marathon came only in the last few weeks, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev told agents, according to authorities. According to the criminal complaint against Dzhokhar, seen here at an ATM machine, trying to get cash from the account of a man whose car he stole, he confessed to the bombing, telling the victim, I did that.
Hungry and destitute people.
As to inspiration, authorities tell ABC News Jahar said he and his brother were following the internet preachings of Anwar al-Awlaki, the American-born jihadist who has been dead now for more than a year and a half.
It appears to me that the older brother was particularly influenced by Awlaki.
And despite his family ties and trips to Chechnya, it was the older brother's hatred of America that supposedly motivated the attack, his brother reportedly said.
And believed that the U.S., including through its wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, were killing Muslims.
James is calling from Walton, Kentucky on our line for independence. James, you're on the Washington Journal.
Good morning, and I just want to say God bless America. But I'm so glad this is all over. But I'm worried how far this is going to take away our civil rights. Because people are going to say, oh, now we need to have drones in every sky. And we could have caught him so much easier if we had drones canvassing the neighborhood. And then if it was black powder that they used in the bombing, they might say, okay, let's restrict all reloading powder sales and let's restrict all shotgun shell sales. What do you think about that?
Well, why do you think that that's going to be necessary, James?
Well, I don't know. It's just a lot of stuff on the internet. People are pointing that out, that this might be part of a bigger agenda to further taking away our rights. That this might have been an inside job, that Blackwater operatives were seen at the Boston Marathon. It just really has me worried.
All right, that's James in Walton, Kentucky. Next up is Kurt in Wilmot, Ohio on our line for Republicans. Kurt, you're on the Washington Journal.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with what was previously just said. All anyone has to do is, anybody who's out there listening, take a look and Google up Operations Gladio, Operations Northwoods, and I was watching Infowars.com just as this was beginning, and within about 3 minutes after them exposing all of the Navy SEALs who were standing at the finish line, within about 2 or 3 minutes, Fox and CNN both started to change their stories. Closing up they decided to present a possible suspect, and all the stories had to have changed. But I think this operation clearly shows just another false flag, much like Aurora and a lot of the other ones. And again, everyone out there, just Google Operations Northwood and Operations Gladio, and you can go to a .gov website and see 200 previous false flags. And I think this one has all the earmarks, particularly the big show that was put on with thousands of police running around all over town looking for one guy. That's all I had to say.
On Twitter, we've got this tweet from Don Ritchie, who writes, "When did we vote to give police the authority to shut down a metro area and lock millions in their homes to catch one criminal?" Hey, Scott, as a defense attorney, talk to me about this item here in this morning's New York Times, where they say a federal law enforcement official said he would not be, this is Johar Zarniev, would not be read his Miranda rights because the authorities would be invoking the public safety exception in order to question him extensively about other potential explosive devices or accomplices and try to gain intelligence.
I don't agree with that. I think everybody should be given their Miranda rights.
So if he's not given his Miranda rights, then they can't use anything that he talks to them about in a trial should this case go to trial, correct?
That's correct.
My concern is with the security of the event. With all the private security they have from Kraft International that was 20 feet away from where the bombing happened in the first place, and the fact that there are other bombs found up the road, this has actually come off the police scanners itself. There was not any suspicious packages. It was actually devices that were found, and they're not telling anybody about. And this stuff is all available on other sites, other media besides the mainstream media. I'm just wondering why you guys, or the mainstream media, kind of stays away from this stuff and doesn't actually report the truths that are out there.
I don't understand how anyone believes this. There's been 25 terrorist attempts since 9/11, and 23 of them, the FBI openly involves giving them the materials, the equipment. and then calling it off at the end. This goes through, you have special forces and soldiers all over the place. You have 1 million people being taken out of their homes. Nothing like this has ever happened in the history of the world, and people are okay with tanks rolling down their streets. This is unbelievable and unnecessary for one suspect.
It's this fact that the FBI has been creating situations where they can, lock people up by starting a terror event, supplying weapons, giving them to patsies to later arrest, so we can have headlines of how we're protecting America and arresting these people. Several callers are correct. There were private contractors. I guess the name is the Craft, which Blackwater has changed, but they had the same insignia of a skull on their hat, and they were all over the finish line area. I mean, you can get on the net and look. We have witnesses. The coach from the University of Memphis stated that there were announcements made before the explosions went off that for people to stay calm, and this was part of a drill. During all this time, several explosions went off during Boston. Apparently, what were they doing? What were all these explosions going off as they were trying to find the killers? As American citizens, I feel it's our duty to find the truth, wherever the truth takes us.
So who was behind it? Well, no one knows at this point, or at least no one is saying. The last time the U.S. saw a bombing attempt like this was 1993. It was during the World Trade Center bombing. That explosion left 6 people dead, more than 1,000 injured. Damages in excess of $500 million. But there is a part of the World Trade Center bombings that is severely underreported. That it was the FBI presiding over the terrorists who carried out the 1993 bombing. In fact, virtually no one would know that fact today had it not been for this man, Imad A. Salim, a 43-year-old former Egyptian army officer. He was used by our government to penetrate a circle of Muslim extremists. According to extensive reporting by the New York Times, Mr. Salim secretly recorded hundreds of hours of conversations with the feds. Again, according to the Times, law enforcement officials were told that terrorists were building a bomb that was eventually used to blow up the World Trade Center. They planned to thwart the plotters by secretly substituting harmless powder for the explosives. The informer was to have helped the plotters build the bomb and supply the fake powder, but the plan was called off by an FBI supervisor. The account portrays the authorities as in a far better position than previously known to foil the February 26 bombing of New York City's tallest towers. Well, what this means for you, again tonight, we know very little about what happened, but we do know this. The University of Mobile's cross-country coach told a local TV affiliate that he was near the finish line of the Boston Marathon when the explosions went off. He said he thought it was odd that there were bomb-sniffing dogs at both the start and the finish lines. He also said that law enforcement spotters were on the roofs at the start and end of the race. So the question tonight must be asked. Did the FBI have any knowledge of this plot before it happened? We do know for a fact that dozens of times since 9/11, the FBI has recruited, trained, and then taken down suspected terrorists before they could carry out their plots. That's not conspiracy, that's a fact. Is the practice of the FBI creating terror plots only to break them up before they can actually happen really making us safer? Is that what happened here?
Comments from the Tsarnaev family, including statements from the mother and father of the suspects as well as their aunt, show that they believe the boys weren't capable of such horrific acts. The family members of the Tsarnaev brothers specifically said they believe they were set up.
I'm suspicious that this was staged. Who is interested in this case? When you're blowing up people and you want to bring attention to something for some purpose.
Framed.
Somebody clearly framed them. I don't know who exactly framed them, but they did. They framed them, and then they were so cowardly that they shot the boy dead.
And tracked by the FBI.
I am like 100% sure that this is a set-up. He was controlled by FBI like for 5 years. They knew what my son was doing. They used to come and talk to me.
Indeed, the FBI had contacted older brother Tamerlan some 2 years before in 2011 prior to a trip he would take to Russia. But beyond that, his mother suggested he'd been followed and even controlled by the FBI for 3 to 5 years. In August 2011, RT reported that the FBI organizes almost all terror plots in the U.S. They wrote in part, "The FBI has in recent years used trained informants not just to snitch on suspected terrorists, but to set them up from the get-go." A report put together by Mother Jones and the Investigative Reporting Program at the University of California, Berkeley analyzes some striking statistics about the role of FBI informants in terrorism cases that the Bureau has targeted in the decade since 9/11. The report reveals that the FBI regularly infiltrates communities where they suspect terrorist-minded individuals to be engaging with others. Regardless of their intentions, agents are sent in to converse with the community, find suspects that could potentially carry out lone wolf attacks, and then more or less encourage them to do so. By providing weaponry, funds, and a plan, FBI-directed agents will encourage otherwise unwilling participants to plot out terrorist attacks, only to bust them before any events fully materialize.
Now, we've been working really hard to try and keep track of all of the inconsistencies with the official story behind the Boston Marathon bombing, and there are so many of them that I'm going to just try to focus on 5 here today, and then you can go to Infowars.com and check out some additional articles that will detail all of the inconsistencies even further. The media announced that the suspects were in custody at the Boston courthouse. The courthouse is suddenly evacuated due to a bomb threat, and the new official word is there are no suspects in custody. FBI releases footage of the suspects without ever showing them actually setting down the backpack. In fact, even Governor Deval Patrick had not seen the video. Although he described the footage showing the suspect placing the bomb near the second blast site as chilling, he then mentioned that he hadn't actually seen the footage himself, but was relayed the info by the FBI. So you're the governor of Massachusetts overseeing this manhunt, and you yourself haven't even seen the footage? The boy's father says that if the FBI kills his second son, then he will know it was a setup. Hours later, the boy is captured alive, but is conveniently unable to speak. The reports say that he suffered from a self-inflicted gunshot wound through the mouth that exited his neck. How does a person who's just shot himself in the mouth climb out and over a boat, surrendering himself to authorities? As Alex Jones reported, the Saudi national suspect, named first as a person of interest, was almost immediately cleared of suspicion after both John Kerry and Obama met with Saudi Foreign Minister Saud just after the Boston Marathon bombing. We were then told Abdul Rahman Ali Al-Arbi is being deported for reasons of national security. The Blaze released more information showing that the FBI was deporting him under Section 212(3)(b, and that he was linked somehow to the Boston bombings, but after the president's meeting with the foreign minister, the file was changed. We now know the Al-Arbi clan has major ties to Al-Qaeda, and although the 20-year-old was already on a terrorist watch list, he was still given a student visa. This is all strangely similar to the flights by the bin Laden family, who are also Saudi nationals, right after 9/11. Why did the FBI ask for the public's help in finding these guys? It's already widely reported that the FBI had been alerted to Tamerlan Tsarnaev at least as early as 2011. Homeland Security said they reviewed the man's associations with suspected extremists, his travel and education history, and concluded that there wasn't incriminating information to prove he had extremist leanings. Is this just another case of the FBI allowing a terror attack to take place in order to take advantage of a crisis?
While people are swallowing the official story without asking any questions, the overarching reality is this. We know that 9/11 changed our lives forever. The government has spent trillions of dollars. It formed the Department of Homeland Security with its ever-increasing stockpile of bullets, armored tanks, bulletproof checkpoints, and predator drones. It's TSA that pats everyone down like a criminal who attempts to get on a plane, and has expanded checkpoints to highways and public events, even though they have never once caught a single terrorist. Security measures launched by the NSA include the formation of U.S. Cybercom and a $2 billion data hub in Utah to spy on Americans. And now the right to bear arms has been challenged as the government swears we don't need guns to protect ourselves because the state will keep us safe. Our nation has given up liberty for the illusion of security. They have set up a system that automates a ratcheted fear response to any threat, real or imagined, guaranteeing more power will be handed over to the state without question on the mere promise of keeping us safe. Has it worked? The real question in the wake of the Boston Marathon tragedy is this: how much more freedom will we surrender?
If the government was running a bomb drill training exercise at Boston at the exact location and the time of the terrorist attack, then A, they did it. B, they let it happen knowingly. Or C, they tried to stop it and proved themselves complete failures again, as on 9/11. In any event, I conclude this government cannot, does not, and will not protect you. So, while I'm deeply sorry for the Boston victims, because I know the government was possibly running this bombing from start to finish, I'm waiting to see how Obama will stand on their graves to advance his political agenda. Obama says he's going to get to the bottom of this. So, he should start by investigating the FBI and the DHS and everyone involved with this bomb drill training exercise that apparently went live. So, questions. Who knew about it? Who had the foreknowledge? How did they know? What exactly did they know? When did they know it, or how long before the race? And if they knew it, why did they not evacuate the people?
Why are you denying that there was bomb drills Monday morning? We got photographs on Infowars.com, folks, of contractors.
Next question, please. Next question, please. Yes. Yes.
Why are you denying that there was bomb drills Monday morning? We got photographs on Infowars.com, folks, of contractors.
Next question, please. Next question, please. Yes. Yes.
Why are you denying that there was bomb drills Monday morning? We got photographs on Infowars.com, folks, of contractors.
Next question, please. Next question, please. Yes.
This is insane, and I'm not going to sit here and watch these people program the public and use these tragedies to take our liberties. I mean, they've got the Secretary of Defense Hagel saying we're going to put troops on the streets everywhere. This has been rolling out forever, and I told you it's coming to a head before the economic implosion that's meant to bring us fully under their control. This is the breaking of America. This is how you get conquered by corporate interest. They stage or allow events to take place and then fearmonger an emotional response to grease the skids. And that's happening right now. And it's happening in Europe. And it's been done over and over again across the world.